The Cleveland Browns finished 5-12 this past year, having one of the worst offenses in the entire league. A lot of people say that the QB needs to be changed, but I beg to differ. As a matter of fact, I would say Shedeur Sanders deserves another shot to really prove himself as a QB. I thought he showed some flashes of potentially quality QB play. And even though flashes and quality QB play don't exactly pop off as franchise QB things, I think at the very least in a QB draft class this coming year that isn't that impressive, Shedeur Sanders deserves another year, a full 17 games to truly prove that he's the guy. This past year, the Cleveland Browns averaged 16 points per game. That's 31st in the NFL. They averaged 262 yards per game. That's 30th in the NFL. It's not pretty. It's not pretty right now when talking about the Cleveland Browns whatsoever. And unfortunately, I can't sit here and tell you that it's going to take one offseason to completely get everything fixed. As a matter of fact, I'll go as far as to say that this entire offseason is just going to be structuring the offense so that next year you have potentially a QB that's fully formed and ready to compete in this NFL. Now, looking at PFF, the offensive line does not look that bad, right? Aside from Cam Robinson, Wyatt Teller, Pochich, Bitonio, and Conklin, they weren't terrible, but they weren't good either. And it showed. It really showed on the tape. Unfortunately, all of these players are going to be unrestricted free agents. So the question now becomes, of these five, who do you really want to bring back? And the answer to me is none of them. Each and every one of these offensive linemen are either over 30 or pushing 30. And in my opinion, it becomes pretty much counterintuitive when you're trying to rebuild an offense to bring in a bunch of old faces. Now, I do think that there is a right guard that's currently on the roster that they should keep in Tevin Jenkins, and he should stay on the roster. He's 27 and he might fit the timeline for this offense. But overall, I do think that the offensive line needs a complete rebuild, and I don't think returning any of the starters back is going to be productive whatsoever. So how I decide to rebuild this offensive line, a combination of both free agency and the draft. It's how to fix every situation in this league. You do it through both, not just one. With that being said, in free agency, there are some cheap options, in my opinion, at right tackle and at center that you can get. Now, I understand left tackle is the most important position in the offensive line. I would say that building that through the draft is more important so you have something for the future. And I do believe this prospect that I'm going to pick in just a second when I show my mock draft is going to be the guy for the Cleveland Browns. From free agency, I think the right tackle should be Larry Borom. Larry Borom played solid football for the Miami Dolphins this past year. The offensive line wasn't perfect, but in an imperfect offensive line, I thought he played relatively well. He could play left tackle. He could play right tackle. I think you should plug him in at right tackle just for stability, but say the player that I have starting at right tackle gets hurt, Larry Borom can fit that hole relatively well. He's a good swing tackle, and I think he should be the starter for this team at right tackle. At center, Luke Fortner is a guy that I think would be very good. He had a relatively great year this year for the New Orleans Saints. I do think that having those two, Larry Borom and Luke Fortner, is a good start to your offensive line. Any vets at those positions, I think, work out perfectly. At left guard and left tackle, I have two rookies. The two rookies are going to be Caden Proctor and Emmanuel Prognon. Here is my mock draft overall. I'll get to the receiver that I have selected in a second, but I really want to key in on this offensive line because this offensive line is going to be the biggest project for the Browns this coming year. Drafting Caden Proctor and Emmanuel Prognon gives you youth in that left side. It's going to be a bit risky having two rookies at your left tackle and left guard. But look, it's obvious. This offensive line might not be perfect in year one. The concept is for them to be good down the line. And I think Caden Proctor and Emmanuel Prognon are both going to be capable starters eventually, even if it's not year one. Now, wide receiver was a big need for the Cleveland Browns as well. And I think you figure that out within the first 10 picks. The Browns have the 6th overall pick this year. As you can see, I have them selecting Mekhi Lemon. Not just Mekhi Lemon, but I do think if Carnell Tate is available, you also take him as well. So yes, I understand that wide receiver is a big thing for the Browns this coming offseason. I agree with you. However, the basis of this offseason video and the basis of the offseason overall for the Browns is to rebuild that offensive line. Because what's the point of having great receivers if Shedeur Sanders is constantly running for his life? As you can see, I have 2 receivers selected here. Actually, 3 of them. Mekhi Lemon, CJ Daniels, and Eric Rivers. Now, I like CJ Daniels because I'm a University of Miami fan. I think he's a good aggressive catcher. And Mekhi Lemon, is my opinion, is my wide receiver 1. So if these 2 go to the Cleveland Browns, I do think they're going to be in great hands. Now, I do want to make this relatively clear. I don't think the Browns should go into the offseason without maybe signing a wide receiver, I'm not asking them to get Tyreek Hill or anything like that, but maybe get somebody who's quick and twitchy and can be a solid wide receiver 3, maybe like a Christian Kirk, maybe like a Khalif Raymond, a Jalen Tolbert, somebody solid, somebody you can trust. Anybody's better than Cedric Tillman, in my opinion. I don't think Cedric Tillman is a wide receiver 2, and I don't even think he's a capable wide receiver 3. I think everything regarding Cedric Tillman, he's probably going to get cut this offseason, if I'm being honest. Look, the Browns offense isn't completely bad. You have guys like Harold Fannin and Quinshawn Judkins. And the defense, I know they're going to have a new defensive coordinator. They're going to announce that in the coming weeks. I don't know it yet. Taylor, if you want to pop that up for whenever that reveals. I do think this Browns defense is going to be just fine, even without Jim Schwartz as defensive coordinator. I think they have a phenomenal defensive roster. Carson Schwesinger just won Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Myles Garrett won Defensive Player of the Year. I think this defense is going to be fine with or without Jim Schwartz. They might have to make some decisions at the linebacker spot, given how Devin Bush is probably gone. He's probably going to get a bigger contract somewhere else. And JOK, unfortunately, we don't know his status regarding his neck injury. So with that being said, the Browns, I think, have the defense to be a playoff team, but the offense is really what needs to be fixed. If they can fix this offense and the offense can be subpar, don't be surprised if Shedeur Sanders somehow gets it together and finally gains some chemistry with these receivers, has protection, and maybe, just maybe, the Cleveland Browns can climb up the AFC North and possibly make a playoff appearance.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.